Dot plots, to be totally honest, aren't used very much anymore. Technology kind of took away the necessity for dot plots. The significance of dot plots is that we could, if again, this is like prior to having access to a lot of technology, we could create a very sort of crude graph to kind of get a quick visual of how data is distributed. So a dot plot is drawn by placing each observation horizontally in increasing order and placing a dot above the observation each time it's observed. So for example, this plot right here is from the Wendy's data that we used as our first example in section 2.2. So we had our Wendy's data here. So the data value 1 occurred once, so it has 1 dot above it. The data value 2 occurred 6 times, so it has 6 dots above it. The data value 3 occurred once, so it has 1 dot above it. And the idea is that if I'm going to create a dot plot, so again, I have like 1, 2, 3, and so on. If I was going to do this by hand, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So I would go through the data. I see the data value 7, so I put a dot above it. Data value 5, so I put a dot above it. 2, 6, 2 again, so I put a dot above my first dot. 6 again, 6 again, and so on. So it's almost like tallying, like making tally marks. I'm counting how many data values occur, and when I'm finished with this, I end up with a distribution of the data. So like I can look here and I can see how the number of customers is distributed through my data. And so I could describe the shape. If it wasn't for that, I would almost call this bell-shaped. That too kind of messes up a bell shape. So I would probably go with the bimodal option again on this because of that. But if I went with one of the 4 that we were given, I would probably say that's closer to bell-shaped than anything else. You can do dot plots in StatCrunch as well. You just go to graphs and you choose the dot plot option and tell StatCrunch where the data are, and it will do the dot plot for you. Again, no one really does that much anymore. Just because of technology, you can just as easily graph a histogram as you can a dot plot, and so that's typically what people do anymore. The last kind of graph that we're going to see in this section is a time series plot. I would be really surprised if you all haven't seen and even used time series plots in the past. So a time series plot is obtained by plotting the time in which a variable is measured on the horizontal axis and the corresponding value of the variable on the vertical axis. Line segments are then drawn connecting the points. So in a time series plot, we're measuring some kind of data, some quantity over time. And so in a time series plot, we have the element of time on the horizontal axis, and then whatever it is we're measuring, we're plotting on the vertical axis in points, and then we're connecting those points with line segments. The following time series plot shows the average age at which individuals first marry by gender for each year of the census since 1890. So in this particular graph, this is an example of a time series plot. So we have in blue, we have men, and in red, we have women. And again, this is the average age at which individuals first marry. So in 1890, if you look here, a man would have been somewhere between 26 and 27, maybe 26 and a half years old on average when he first married. A female would have been a little more than 23 and a half years old that year. By 1900, the age had dropped for men a little bit. Maybe it's more like 26 and a quarter years old. And for a female, it also dropped to be maybe like 23 and a third years old, and so on. To the nearest year, what was the average age of a man who first married in 1980? So in 1980, We go up to the min, and so it looks like that was around 25. So I would say that's approximately 25 years old. So in 1980, the average age of a man when he first married would have been about 25. To the nearest year, what was the average age of a woman who first married in 1960? So in 1960, we have the point here, and so that would have been around 21. So again, I would say approximately 21 years old. So that's the idea of a time series plot. Again, you have some magnitude of time on the horizontal axis and some quantity that you're keeping track of over time on the vertical axis.